Left of the box. So, TYT, the home of progressives. False advertising these days. Now, I've mentioned it before on this channel. I don't want my channel to be a drama channel. When it comes to simple things like name calling or surface level issues, or you don't like the style of one content creator over the other, that sort of thing, I don't care. There are content creators I like that a lot of people don't like. There are content creators I simply don't like that a lot of people like. It is what it is. You know, some are just personal preferences, tastes, and I don't care about these surface level issues. But when you have the largest online leftist network doing an absolute bizarre, hard turn center and right when it comes to talking points, a network I used to be personally involved with, I feel like I have to speak out. You know, we hold media to account. It's usually the mainstream media that we call out. But, you know, it is powerful media sources. You know, it's not like I'm punching down when I talk about TYT. And for those of you who don't know, I used to be a contributor to TYT's Rebel HQ, their Canadian content contributor, which was a while ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. So I also feel like I have a little bit of an obligation to speak out when they pull this nonsense. And for the most part, it's Cenk and Anna. There's a lot of other contributors to TYT that, as far as I know, are still good. I don't watch their content regularly for well over a year. And even before then, I was starting to not watch it regularly. I catch a clip here and there, especially if it starts going viral in social media. But it's been very, very disappointing, especially because they inspired a lot of people to get involved with politics, content creation. I got inspired to be involved with politics because of them. And to see not only their right-wing takes, which are bad enough, but it's their absolute disdain for other leftists is very damaging to the cause, to the progressive cause, to the leftist cause. They show more vitriol towards people like me these days than they do to the right wing, to MAGA. And again, this is very damaging to the movement, to progressive causes, to things that we are fighting for on this side. And Cenk will claim it's for one thing or another, but he's making the choice. He's making the choice to flush the principles of TYT down the drain. And for him to still refer to it as the home of progressives, okay, that's just plain and simply misbranding right now. I said it in my other video that I have clipped when I was talking to Ravana. She was on my show recently. And I said you could be a capitalist with progressive views, but you can't really be a progressive with capitalist views. And I know some people in the comments were pushing back against that, of the ones that I kind of briefly glanced over. But I hold strong to that, because there's also a difference between understanding and accepting elements of capitalism can't just be blinked away as much as we might want it to. But progressives, generally speaking, are fundamentally against capitalism. However, you can be a capitalist and have progressive views. And that is what Cenk is. He is out loud and avowed capitalist. He has mentioned it many times before. He has debated about it. He is a capitalist. And those capitalist instincts are starting to take over and taking TYT into a very disturbing direction. It's not just me noticing it. It's a whole lot of people. And they're losing on their network. They're losing a lot of their more progressive contributors because they don't want to give legitimacy to the network anymore. If the network is no longer representing what they used to stand for. Some of these things, though, when you start, again, hindsight 2020, when you start looking back, some of these things they never had in the first place, but they didn't make such a big deal about it. But the stories that they choose to focus on, the framing of these stories, has actually been very, very harmful to certain groups of people, primarily people living with poverty, unhoused people, people with addictions, queer folks, trans folks in particular, have been a target of what they are doing. Cenk has actually said that it was the Democrats' fixation on trans people that cost them this past election, even though they didn't mention anything about trans people during their campaign. But Cenk has said multiple times that it's trans people's fault, basically, that Harris lost the election. You can't be a progressive and take a group like that and throw them under the bus when they're no longer convenient for you. Being progressive means having principles and sticking by those principles. And so there is a compare and contrast when it comes to these bigger leftist creators online. Yes, TYT is the largest leftist one, but another growing one, and a very large one to begin with, is the Majority Report. And as TYT's subscribers go down, the Majority Report seems to be gaining more because more people are finding out about the Majority Report. Now, some of you might have noticed I'm a fan of the Majority Report. I would love to be on the Majority Report at some point. Sam, Emma, Matt all have great, consistent values and points. And I really do admire their network, what they do. But the thing is that how I feel about the Majority Report, the admiration I have for them, is conditional. You know, I don't have blind loyalty to anyone or anything. It absolutely is conditional. You can call me, a gatekeeper if you like, but there are certain things that if you don't agree with me on, then we're probably not going to get along. And Cenk loves to explode and say, oh, well, if they disagree on even 0.1% of stuff, then they can't, and he gets all animated and stuff. When it comes to some fundamental principles, yeah, if we don't agree on it, then we're not going to get along. And some of those things are human rights, for trans people, having them being treated equally to everyone else. That's a fundamental principle of mine. And so far, the Majority Report and myself have aligned on the vast majority of things. And Sam in particular, you can go back and watch shows from 10 years ago, and he's been consistent. One of the things, the thing I admire about Sam the most is his integrity. Because I'm the type of person, I'm very much attracted to things like intelligence and a sense of humor and stuff. But a lot of that, to some extent, you're born with. Because some people, no matter how hard they study, they might not be the brightest person around. And that's not meant as like a criticism or anything. It's just, there's fluctuations within that group. And I happen to be drawn more towards people with a higher demonstration of intelligence. But when it comes to integrity, that's something you choose. You are making choices to stick to your principles. And so when it comes to what I value in a person, their integrity surpasses a lot of the other things that I might find interesting or attractive in other people, because it is a choice. At this point, Cenk and Anna and the direction TYT is going, their integrity has collapsed. My respect for them has therefore also collapsed. And we'll get a little bit into one of the more recent blow-ups online about this. Their Cenksgiving, as they call it, where Cenk sits down with Hasan, who is his nephew. And Hasan is another massive leftist content creator, primarily on Twitch. And every year they kind of, for the past few years, have sat down around Thanksgiving to have a bit of a back and forth, a debate, which is fine and all. I'm not going to be going over the whole thing. It was like 3 hours long, their conversation, and there's tons in there to go over. But if you want to see those types of analysis, you can check out the Vanguard, you can check out the Serfs. You know, they do a far more thorough watching of it. There was just a few key points within this conversation that they had that I want to touch on, and hopefully my timestamps are correct on what I wrote down, because it's just a few places that I want to go over. And some of it is because even though Cenk goes off again on trans people in his chat with Hasan, I don't feel the need to go over the entire section because I have before. There were just some things, though, a few things in this that just really, again, got under my skin. And we'll get into it. But first, it's not just these conversations that Cenk and Anna are having because they're going on more center and right-wing networks to be the progressive pick-me. It's also how he's presenting himself, Cenk, how he's presenting himself on Twitter, his talking points, his views on MAGA versus the left wing and all this sort of stuff. It is just totally tanked. Because if you go back just a little while ago, it might be hard to remember with everything that's happened over this past year/century, Cenk actually tried to run for president. Again, to me, that was something a little bit of what you would call a, red flag. Because there was no way in hell Cenk was ever going to win. None. And I don't have an issue with him running, even though legally he wasn't qualified to run because he wasn't born in the United States, which is, you know, its own issues. I don't think that should rule someone out. But it is a thing in the United States. He was never going to win. And the thing that bothered me about it was when he was asking his audience to donate to his campaign. A campaign he knew never stood a chance. And as far as campaigns go, it was really bad. And it didn't do much to raise awareness on a certain issue or anything. He was running because, in his words, Trump was a fascist and they need somebody to stand up against him. My, how things have changed in just a few months. And so to me, that was taking advantage of an audience, of his audience. Like he was just taking advantage of his audience, asking them for money for something he knew would never result in anything. And in these clips that I'm going to cover, he calls Sam Seder, the main host of The Majority Report. Cenk calls Sam a grifter. Not cool. So this is from Benjamin Dixon. And Benjamin also used to be a regular guest on TYT. You know, he was on plenty of their shows. Like I said, I used to be a contributor for Rebel HQ. I was also on The Conversation with Cenk. I've actually talked to him, although he probably has no memory or recollection who I am. And the thing about that conversation I had with Cenk was it was about the whole use of the term birthing person and inclusive language. And it was me, who had only been working with TYT for a month. I was calling out Cenk and Anna on something that they did. And so I was able to get onto the conversation with Cenk to talk about it. This was about a year before the big blow up on social media with Anna, with her whole never referred to me as a birthing person tweet. So when Cenk kind of stood in it with her, he can't claim ignorance. He can't claim he didn't know anything about the controversy around the term birthing person, because there's video evidence that he had talked to someone about it before. I was the last person that I know of that Cenk ever talked to about trans or inclusive language issues when it comes to trans and non-binary folks. Because for those who don't know, I'm non-binary. I, generally speaking, present female, but I'm non-binary. I don't consider myself a woman. She, her pronouns are fine. They, them pronouns are fine. So he hasn't talked to anyone since. Now, I'd like to think that I just blew it out of the park so much that he realized that he couldn't do anything about it, but I think he's also just completely forgotten about who I am anyway. I'm not a debater. I don't feel like I did a great job in the conversation with him. I was nervous as hell. But I was also the last person he talked to about it. And I would just find it very interesting if maybe, just maybe, he realized that he could talk to me, someone with no experience with debating whatsoever, and kind of realize that he looked like a fool to some extent. And think to himself, maybe not talk to any more people about this subject on TYT. Because like I said, as far as I know, he hasn't. And I'd be more than happy, despite my unease of debates and confrontational conversations like that, I'd be more than happy to go back on to talk about it. We'll get back to this tweet. So this is from Benjamin Dixon, and he's quote tweeting Cenk saying, "For over a decade, progressives sank money into this guy only for him to become MAGA at the exact point we need a progressive media company. I'm one of these people who sank money into this guy. I used to be a paid member before I was a contributor to Rebel HQ. Even after for a bit. I also helped with fundraising for them to get their independent reporter. Whatever happened to that? Right. Fortunately, I didn't buy any of their merch. You see, I'm very reluctant to do things like that, which, again, only goes to show how confident I am with the Majority Report that I've bought a lot of their merch. I have a couple hoodies, t-shirts, their mug, stickers, got the goddamn pencils. I went to a live show in Boston because that's how much faith I have in the Majority Report. And the thing is it is very much earned. You know, it's not just something that I blindly put my faith into them. So TYT back in the day, they inspired me to get involved with politics. The Majority Report, Michael Brooks in particular, inspired me to do content creating. And like I said, you can go back a decade and you can see them consistent on these points. And now we have this left-wing network, TYT, who have actively done segments that harms trans people. And do you know who is speaking up against TYT? Emma and Sam on the Majority Report. Matt as well. The crew, the Thursday crew that they bring in as well. They're the ones pushing back. They're the ones, supporting trans folks, that are going to bat for trans folks, that are being true allies. Cenk doesn't get to claim to be an ally because they've done a couple stories over the years that they claim they want trans rights, only for them to send out transphobic comments and do framing on videos that is transphobic and anti-trans. You know, it's not like you do 10 good videos and you get one transphobic statement for free. That's not how it works. You don't get to call yourself an ally, a part-time ally, if, you know, what you are doing is actively harming the trans community. And what Cenk and Anna are doing is actively harming the trans community. And you have Sam and Emma on the Majority Report vocally pushing back against that, strongly pushing back against that. Go back and watch. You can go back a decade before same-sex marriage was legalized in the United States. Sam was saying it should be. There are videos of him talking about that on mainstream media. Emma has put her neck on the line many times and become a target for harassment because of how she supports, in particular, trans women in sports. Because she is also a sports nut. She knows so much about sports. And so this touches on a couple of issues for her. And she has been great. And they'll go on to these other platforms and do what Cenk and TYT should have been doing. Cenk will say a whole bunch of nonsense about, well, it's not popular. You know, the majority of the population doesn't agree that trans people deserve full equal rights to cis women and all that sort of stuff. Well, as a leftist progressive network, it's kind of your job to help influence people, to help educate people, to push back against anti-trans rhetoric, not, you know, throw your hands up in the air and say, oh, well, I guess it's their fault that the Democrats lost. Back to this tweet, as I keep on, this is going to be a very rambly segment. I'm sorry, because there's like 1,000 points in my head about this. So like I said, Benjamin Dixon said, for over a decade, progressives sank money into this guy only for him to become a MAGA at the exact point we need progressive media company. And it is very true. Right now, to have a network the size of TYT actually fighting for progressive values to push back against what is about to happen in the United States with Project 2025 coming into place, yeah, this is the exact time we need that progressive media company, now more than ever. Benjamin was quote tweeting Cenk saying, I'm going to make my boldest prediction yet. I think at least half of Trump's base are actual populists and they will challenge him if he goes awry. No one on the left will believe me. Yeah. They think everyone in MAGA is a cult and will follow Trump no matter what. I disagree. Trump has been found liable for rape. He has been accused of sexual assault by dozens of women. He has had security secrets in his washroom at Mar-a-Lago. He was giving access to top secret information to whoever was just happening to go by. There was the whole insurrection thing, you know, that thing that happened on January 6th a little while ago. There was that, you know, where he was inciting a crowd to, go storm the Capitol and kill his vice president. If after all of that, they're still voting for him, yeah, I don't believe they'll challenge him. There will be some people who will get upset, you know, when prices go up because of tariffs. However, a lot of those people won't know why those prices are going up, and Trump will somehow blame the Democrats and they'll take it. When Cenk says, I think at least half of Trump's base are actual populists and they will challenge him, the problem is that they don't know. They're not educated. They're politically illiterate. Again, I'm not saying they're all stupid, but they don't know a lot of the facts in the situation. And of those people, a lot of them won't care, and a lot of them, it's the feature, not the bug. But a lot of them have no idea how bad Trump actually is because they're not that plugged into media. They're not going to challenge him. And the part of Trump's base that will get upset with him is not enough to actually get Trump out of power. And it's not enough to make the other Republicans turn against Trump. MAGA absolutely is a cult. It is definitionally a cult. If you've seen some of the videos going around social media right now with people doing the Trump dance at their turkey dinners, how people were wearing, maxi pads on their ears, unironically to support Trump after he was, grazed or whatever. When you see all of that, it's a goddamn cult. It's a cult. When you have them abandoning family and friends because of Trump, it's a cult. Because there is a very big difference between MAGA supporters who are upset over their left-leaning, liberal, progressive family members and friends cutting them off than when they actually cut them off. Because sometimes you have to cut off people who are being abusive. I find it very difficult to believe that a lot of the people in these families that are on the left are being abusive to the MAGA people. But then they go to Thanksgiving dinner, especially if they're queer, trans, immigrants, and then they would have to listen to their MAGA relatives tell them how horrible they are, how they shouldn't exist, how they have no right to autonomy, how they shouldn't be allowed in there, how people who can give birth shouldn't have the right to make decisions over their body. Why would you want to stay around that rhetoric? Whereas what people on the left say, I think everyone should have universal basic health care. There was another post recently that Cenk put through. So there's another tweet that I'm going to get to, but there was another one recently that I wanted to point to. Oh, it's right here. So Cenk has also tweeted out, I've been trying to figure out why I'm more optimistic now than I was before the election, even though I was so against the guy who won. I know now MAGA is not my mortal enemy, and neither is the extreme left. Interesting how he has to throw that in, because one would think that if you're on the left, we shouldn't be enemies, let alone mortal enemies. My mortal enemy is the establishment, and they have been defeated. The establishment won. Generally speaking, they've always won. And I don't know if you know what mortal enemy means. You see, for me, MAGA is my mortal enemy, because in the States, they want to make sure trans people can't exist. In the States, they're making it so people who can give birth, their lives are put in danger should they get pregnant and anything goes wrong. Literally, a lot of them want to see us dead. That's a mortal enemy. Didn't even read the next two parts of this, so let's read them together. It's not just that the establishment candidate lost, it's that their media is mortally wounded. The source of their strength was not insipid politicians like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. The source of their strength was their propaganda machine, the mainstream media. I don't think mainstream media has been mortally wounded in this. They're going to survive just fine, but they're going to change and become even more right-wing. Now, online media is strong enough that their oppressive monopoly on the American mind has been broken. Now we're in the jungle. They hate that. I love it. This uncontrolled marketplace of ideas is where I'm home. I'd rather be in the populist woods than in an establishment prison. Uncontrolled marketplace of ideas, so long as you're on the left and you agree with him. If not, then you're a dirtbag leftist, and we'll get a little bit into that. This is coming from the guy who, again, just a few months ago, was running for president because Trump was a fascist threat, unlike anything else we had seen before. Wonder what's changed in between now and then. There was actually a time not too long ago, I was starting to get anxiety every time Anna tweeted out and was getting any sort of traction. Just because the damage she was doing to the trans community was very anxiety riddled. I guess anxiety riddled. I guess that's a phrase. I don't know if it's the phrase I was looking for, but it is a phrase now. And now I'm starting to get that from Cenk. Because as some people have pointed out, if you watch again the Serfs and the Vanguard and other, I think even David Dole has mentioned it from the Rational National, a lot of the tweets that Cenk seems to be getting traction on are the ones where he's supportive of MAGA. And I think just a lot of this has to do with midlife crisis mentality going on in him. He's desperate to remain relevant. I think grifter is a little bit, I don't rule it out at this point, but I still don't think it's quite accurate to call Cenk a grifter. He's definitely a capitalist and he's going where the money is, but I think a lot of what the right is doing is just feeding into his ego. And he's at a point in his life where he's desperate to remain relevant, and they're giving him that relevancy. And I think that's one of the primary driving factors. That and trying to keep TYT afloat, because I don't think they're doing that well. I think they grew above their means. Like their operation grew above their means. They'd have to give up a lot of what they do in order to maintain what they have. And I don't think Cenk wants to go there, because that would be a blow to his ego. That would be a sure sign that he failed. Here we go. This is the big debate. Like I said, we're not going to go over this whole thing. It's 3.5 hours long, 180K views on YouTube. But this was launched on Twitch, where Hasan has his large audience. So who knows what kind of impact this is actually going to have. But I have a few points kind of keyed up that I wanted to go to.
In 2020.
It's not like Bernie Sanders. It's not like Bernie Sanders himself is saying like, yeah, trans people, we got to cut them out of this bargain.
Trans people, you guys are just making that up.
No,
but when you frame it that way, you get all these crazy
Republicans
people
are
online.
saying that. Republicans are saying that.
No, I know, but we're not saying that. When you get all these crazy people.
No, Cenk is pretty much saying that when it comes to, trans women in sports.
Online who are like, oh my God, if you don't agree to free surgeries for every trans person on planet Earth, you're a Nazi. Well, those people exist, and those people, that is the radical left, and they are stupid, and they do cost us elections.
No.
Okay, so how is it being part of the radical left to think that people should be able to get free surgeries? That would fall under the category of universal health care. Yeah, I think all trans people should be able to get free surgeries, regardless of their situation, because I also believe in universal health care. And just the idea that, for people to be able to get gender-affirming care, that's somehow a radical thought. It's just allowing people to live as who they are, to be the most productive person they can be, because they feel right in their own bodies. Cenk has no concept, and I think this is part of the problem. He has no concept as to what it's like to live in a body that doesn't feel like you. I feel it, but for a different reason than gender dysphoria, although there is a bit of that in there, for other reasons. But it plays such a big part in every factor of your life. And the way that I feel it in my body and how my body actually presents, it has kept me away from jobs, from relationships, from traveling, because of the disconnect that I feel. And with trans people, it's going to be much, much worse. It affects everything. So how is it radical to say, you know what, if there's a surgery that can help them feel better about who they are, then they should be able to get it for free? How is that being radical?
You're hyper focusing, and I've had this conversation privately with you many times over. You are hyper focusing on people that are in your replies on Twitter. And because
so you agree with me, that radical left
because
is bullshit,
all you interact,
stupid dumbasses. Do you agree?
There are a million people.
So would I be one of those stupid bullshit dumbasses that he was just talking about there?
That are both in your replies that have also gotten mad at me as well, time and time again, on specific issues, maybe ones that even pertain to trans rights. Okay. It literally doesn't matter. People get very passionate, understanding. I'm very understanding.
Shocking agreement. I agree. There's 13 douchebags online. That's what I said from day one.
I know, but why the would you ever hyper focus on
but
people like that?
Look, no. So you might be doing the right thing. Hold on.
You're doing the Bill Maher thing. You're demanding that there needs to be a sister
bullshit.
No, you're doing the sister soldier moment.
And this has been one of the things that I've talked about, plenty of people have talked about. On their network, they have chosen specific stories to go over. And some of the framing they have chosen very specifically around trans people in particular, around criminals, unhoused people. They are making the choice to present those facts. Out of all the stories that they could cover, there was the Venezuelan gangs, which has an impact nationwide. How? Even though that story, there's a video out there that is debunking a lot of that as, not being true at all. And they should have known if they had any integrity at all and bothered to actually check the facts as opposed to just accepting any facts they came across that, validated their preconceptions, and a lot of those facts weren't real. It's just, here's a little nugget of information that I think, sure, yeah, it's going to be authentic and it validates what I already think. So I'm just going to go with this without any further thought. For a network with as much money and influence and power and, resources from people and information and tech, for them to not at least look into the stories, like actually do real fact checking ahead of time and just stick to their feelings is ridiculous. The amount of fact checking and stuff that I do for my teeny tiny channel is more than what they do for stories that can actually have impacts on people's lives, that can actually influence some of the populace there.
No, bullshit.
No, you're trying to...
So the minute we said the most reasonable things on earth, which you now agree with apparently, then what happened? It wasn't just the 13 douchebags online. And by the way, everybody...
I like that little statement there. Look at the difference between Cenk's anger for left versus right. I haven't seen him get this mad about right-wing politicians in ages. Credit where credit is due. When he goes on things like Piers Morgan to talk about the genocide in Gaza, he gets equally animated. But the idea that he gets as equally animated about calling out Israel for the genocide that they're committing, and for the left, because the left feels, there should be equal rights. What does that say about Cenk? But for him to get this mad at right-wingers these days, no. It's all about, we need to accept the right. We need to welcome them into the fold. We need to do this and that and the other thing. But the instant somebody on the left disagrees with him, then it's nothing but a rage rant from him.
By the way, everybody said, no, those 13 douchebags represent all the left. You're not on the left anymore because the 13 douchebags control the left. And then what happened next? Then Majority Report jumped in, and Lance from the Serfs and all the other little dirtbags jumped in, and they were like, no, Cenk and Anna are turning right. The 13 douchebags are right. We need to protect every trans person should get free surgery. We got, even in China, even though we have nothing to do with China, we hate them, they're Nazis.
What the fuck was that? Like, seriously, what the fuck was that? I'm going to cry and whine here and pretend to be like, the douchebag lefties and they're all mean to me and I'm going to sit here and have a little temper tantrum because, I'm a big, strong leftist and I have a thick skin like I always say and I'm not afraid to punch back when they punch at me. But no, they call me out, these 13 douchebag lefties, they called me out, so I'm going to sit here and whine. What the hell was that? Can he not have a conversation like an adult? Instead, he has to go to that sort of whining. Like, is he so afraid of having like a real conversation that he has to deflect with little tantrums like that? It's not entertaining. It's not funny. It just makes him look pretty pathetic. And again, for him to be saying, oh no, these 13 dirtbag, and there's probably more, dirtbag lefties, douchebags, dirty douchebag, how dare they call him out because he said something anti-trans? Yeah, you said something that was anti-trans, and the people who are actual allies and people who are part of the community called you out for it. And in fact, most of us tried to have a conversation with you, a civil conversation. I know that there were people who reached out to Anna, to Cenk, to have these conversations. I've put it out there, but again, they don't know who I am. So it's not like it's shocking that, they haven't said, oh, Sandy, right, she was on our network. She did those amazing Rebel HQ videos. We should have her back on to have this conversation. No, we all tried to have civil conversations with him on the left, but they refused to hear it. They don't want to have that conversation. And so, yeah, we're calling you out when you do things that goes against progressive values. When you say anti-trans things, we're gonna call you out. And I am grateful that there is another network, The Majority Report, that has a large audience, and they are not afraid to go full-throated in support as an ally to trans folks and push back against his bullshit.
What happened next? Then Majority Report jumped in. They are turning away the free surgery.
We got
even in China.
Okay,
even though we have nothing to do with China.
You gotta
we
stop.
hate them. They're Nazis.
You gotta, okay.
I mean, I'm 100% right. Every dirtbag show did it.
You gotta calm
Every
down.
dirtbag show did it.
I'm 100% right. Every dirtbag show did it. So all of this, so the SERFs, the Rational National, the Humanist Report, Dan from the Internet, the Power Report, me, the Vanguard, we're all dirtbags. Then is that what you're saying? That we're all just dirtbag lefties because we don't agree with you? And yeah, that freeze frame from Hasan is just... He looks embarrassed. He just seems so embarrassed to have Cenk there doing this. But yeah, it goes down that mentality of, I'm not the one who's wrong. Everyone else is wrong. I'm the one who's right. It kind of reminds me when Tim Pool was saying, it's all the women in his life have something wrong, as opposed to, there's nothing wrong with him as to why he can't get a woman, but it's all the women's fault. And so this is what Cenk is kind of like, I'm not the one that's wrong on these issues. It's all the other leftists. They're the ones that are wrong. They need to listen to me.
Every dirtbag show did it.
You gotta calm
Every
down.
dirtbag show did it. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
This is reframing an issue that is, now we've moved away from the electoral consequences of a trans ad to your own personal anger and frustration that you have with left-wing media online. We are
So do you agree left-wing media online, those guys that I listed are full of shit?
I have
Still, Cenk is refusing to even engage in the conversation, to listen to what Hasan is saying. Because I've never been a huge fan of Hasan. No diss or wrong to him. Again, it's a style thing. I'm not on Twitch either. So I had no idea how matured he's become since I have seen a lot of his content from before. Or not even a lot of his content, but his content from before. How so much more mature and level-headed and reasonable he comes across right now compared to Cenk. It's kind of mind-boggling. But here's the uncle, here's the nephew. And Cenk can't have a normal conversation. He has to deflect. The instant Hasan tries to point out, you're taking this too personally. You know, you're taking what these random lefties have to say a little bit too personally, and it's affecting your judgment, which is a very apt observation. But Cenk doesn't want to hear it because he doesn't want to acknowledge he's wrong on anything.
Tiny, stupid minority.
I have disagreements with everyone in this space, but there's a reason why seemingly I don't catch the same amount of strays that you do, because I don't hyper focus.
I can tell you why.
I don't hyper focus. What do you think it is?
They think you're hot, young. I don't mean attractive. God bless on that. Okay. I'm also obviously hot. I mean, as in they think, oh, the young people watch Hasan. He's cool. And you give the thing of like, oh, no, trans people are right on everything, right? You don't come out.
And this is where Cenk's insecurities are, again, shining through. He is going through a midlife crisis. He is in need of relevance that he is quickly losing. And yeah, he's probably jealous. Jealous of the attention that Hasan gets. Jealous of the fact that a lot of people value what Hasan has to say versus what he has to say. And a lot of it is an age thing. A lot of it is a presentation thing. But I think he's really hitting that midlife crisis right now and has a desperate need to remain relevant. But the more he tries to cling on to that, the more he tries to make himself relevant, the more irrelevant he becomes. At some point, you have to reevaluate what you're doing in life and try to figure out, is this going to get me the gangs that I want? Or am I trying to force an issue? Am I trying to force relevancy on people? Because if you're trying to force it onto people, it will never happen. It will always come across as fake, and people don't buy it. If Cenk wants to remain relevant, he has to reevaluate his role in the media sphere.
Out and make the distinctions that Anna and I made. Okay, so they think, oh no, he's good. He's extreme as we are.
I think
he's woke left. Yay, extremeness.
I think the reason, first of all, you're
okay. By the way, majority report and all of you guys, you better attack him. He apparently agrees with me. Okay, you better attack him.
I don't.
You're not going to attack him, are you?
You're.
If people have a huge disagreement with Hasan on the left, I'm fairly certain that they do attack him, as Hasan had just said happens. You know, there are disagreements on the left, and people, when they don't agree with him, call him out as well. And he's called out others. And they have remained civil about it because they're not taking it personally. It's about exchanging ideas. But to sit there and whine and be like, oh, well, you have a slight disagreement or you agree with me on something, so therefore the majority report must be, they should call you out too, again, really goes towards Cenk's insecurity. He feels so threatened by Sam in particular. And why Sam in particular? Because somehow, even though they're about the same age, Sam continues to remain relevant. He continues to inspire. He continues to have an audience that agrees with him. Somehow, Sam has figured that out. But it's not that Sam has figured it out. Sam has integrity. Something Cenk lacks.
You're hyper personalizing this into like criticisms that you've
comes
received.
And punches you in the face 12 times, and you go, whoa! Why are you hyper personalizing it?
Because
just because I called you a Nazi, now it's personal to you.
Because myself.
Show the clip. Okay, Cenk, just show the clip of he's talking about Lance. He claims Lance called him a Nazi. Show the clip. I'm sure something like that would have made the rounds. You know, maybe I wasn't on Twitter that day because I was abducted by aliens and there's a day in my life that I'm unaware is missing. So maybe that made the rounds on that day, the day that I'm unaware that I missed, because every day that I'm awake, I'm on Twitter way too much. So I would have seen it, especially in the circles that I run around on Twitter. So where is the clip of Lance calling you a Nazi? Where is the screenshot of the tweet Lance sent out calling you a Nazi. It doesn't exist, but he will continue to insist it over and over and over again that because we had a slight disagreement, that the left en masse is referring to Cenk as a Nazi. Good faith actors on the left have never called Cenk a Nazi. There are reactionaries on the left, people that just want to, get a rise out of others. And sure, those are some random accounts. But if you let them get under your skin, you're in the wrong profession. If some, account with 2 followers is bothering you, you're in the wrong profession. And Cenk talks about like, oh, if they punch you in the face 13 times, you're going to punch back. I have seen Cenk punch down first plenty of times. I've seen him launch attacks on randos on Twitter because they just said, hey, why don't you talk to someone about this? And Cenk immediately launched into insults towards this random person on Twitter. I've seen him condescend, like when Benny was talking about her situation and stuff that happened. The condescending tones in Cenk's tweets towards her. Come on. Cenk does a lot of the punching first because Cenk is a bully. He is a bully. And, when he's fighting for, calling out Israel for their genocide, it works in our favor. And he's very good at being loud, and it's kind of cathartic seeing him, yell and scream at Piers Morgan about it and stuff. But he's still being a bully. And that's what Cenk is. When he's launching all these attacks on these leftists who, again, at the beginning, in very good faith and nature, tried reaching him. And he's just completely, nope, you're wrong. You're all dirtbag, you're dirty douchebag leftists, and I'm the only true leftist.
You majority report,
but I never changed my policy.
Why are
you hyper personalizing it?
Because
just because I called you a Nazi, now it's personal to you.
Because myself, you majority report,
but I never changed my policy. All of this is
he absolutely changed his policy. Just months there's video evidence of it. When the Serfs was reviewing this. The Serfs actually go back to the video on TYT where Cenk was launching his campaign to run as president, where he was saying, oh, Trump is a fascist and he needs to be fought against and all that sort of stuff. In just a few months, he's completely changed his policy on that. I know Anna has definitely changed her policy because there's clips of her saying, oh, inclusive language is not a big deal. That definitely changed. They've changed their policies on a lot of different things. And maybe it's not so much that they changed their policies, it's more that they've become more honest about them. So maybe, again, if you look at it that way, maybe in his eyes, he hasn't changed his policies. He's just becoming more honest about what they actually were in the first place.
Is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. And whenever there's like drama, for example, I've been getting attacked mercilessly by my former podcast co-host that has been actively trying to deplatform me for the past 2 months because he thinks that, or he's claiming that I am creating a space that is anti-Semitic. The way I've dealt with that, for the most part, is by just actively ignoring it leading up to the election because I was like, this is some silly nonsense. And in the aftermath, I covered some of the broader points and I've moved on. If you extend the conflict that way, instead of trying to find a reasonable middle ground, and even show humility in a certain, I don't agree. Even show humility instead of saying I'm right, there's never going to be any sort of real solidarity.
Why am I going to show humility to you, a bunch of idiots who are wrong?
Because I
like what?
Why would I ever acknowledge that I was wrong and show humility? And then also referring to them as idiots. Again, the name calling and stuff that he seems to get so offended by when, fake names are launched at him. When people supposedly call him Nazi, he's so offended by that. But he's openly calling people on the left idiots right now.
What does humility mean? Like, oh, maybe you're right about your dumb opinion that's going to cost us this election.
Okay.
Maybe you're right about your dumb opinion that gets the majority of the country to hate us when our economic positions are overwhelmingly popular. Maybe you making us intensely unpopular when we should be focusing on universal health care, higher wages, paid family leave. But you idiots hate policy. All you want is identity politic bullshit, and you think that drives ratings, and you want me to show humility to those morons? None. Zero.
Let's have a.
So right there, he's basically saying, I am not going to sit down and listen to anyone who disagrees with me. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to think that maybe they're coming from a good faith perspective. I'm not going to listen to their arguments because I already don't agree with them. Cenk has said time and time again that it does not matter what kind of evidence is shown to him, who says what, he will never change his mind on trans women and women's sports. That is not a position of strength, that is a position of weakness. I am open to having my mind changed on anything if I am presented with actual factual information, with people telling me their stories, with lived experience. I will have my mind changed about anything, and I have over the years. I've grown on things, and that's not a sign of weakness. That is a sign of growth, and Cenk is refusing it right now. He is actively saying, I don't want to grow. I don't want to learn. I don't want to acknowledge I'm wrong on anything, and he's doing it at the detriment of entire groups of people. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit.
Virtually every single issue. So in many respects, we are all aligned on virtually every single issue. So in many respects, you feel chastised individually. You feel like you've been outcast by the left or whatever, like the media representation of the left is.
They're not the left. I'm the left.
Okay.
No, 100%. And you agree with that.
Okay.
Again, this is the thing where he's like, no, those radicals who claim that they're the purists, that they're the left, that you have to agree with us 100%, or else you're not part of the left. Those radical, dirty douchebags, they're not the real left. I'm the left. This capitalist lover is the left. That's what Cenk is doing right now. In that exact phrase, he is showing his hypocrisy. To sit there and claim, how dare they claim to be the left when I'm the real left? Yeah, I'm feeling it, Hasan. I'm feeling it too.
Please, just listen.
No, because we have to.
But you're not the singular force.
The idiots are making.
Again, please, will you listen? No. That's not strength. That is profound weakness and insecurity.
Everyone think they are the left. They're like, we're the left, we're the real left. Okay, we are super extreme. We want free surgeries for every criminal. Yes, we're the left. And oh, Nazi. And Hus, what happens? People think they are the left. So if you say you're right.
Yeah, I think all criminals should have free surgery because, it's up to the state to look after them. And if they need a surgery while they're being incarcerated, they absolutely should have surgery covered. But then so should everyone else. Universal health care. Surgeries for everyone. Every type of surgery a person needs should be able to get. Radical, douchey, dirty, douchebag lefty right here.
Cenk, those are the extreme idiot left.
I don't
and
think
you
that
are
they're
the
the
left,
extreme,
and I'm okay.
No, I don't think those are the extreme idiot left. I think that there is going to be a diversity of thought in any issue that people have, and it's a matter of who you make your enemies in the finite amount of time that we have on the space, the finite amount of time that we have, living on planet Earth. It's about the economy of time and utilizing it appropriately. I don't spend any time. I do not spend any
just
time.
Let him attack you and sit there and don't correct anything. Let all the lies fester. Okay.
So you're just saying that we sit by and let them attack you and blah, blah, blah. So what? Are you saying that us, these dirty douchebag lefties, that we should just sit by and let TYT attack our movements and say nothing and never push back? So it's okay for, we should just sit back and never push back on Cenk. See, he would think it's inconceivable for him to not push back whenever he feels threatened. But how dare anyone else on the left push back against him when they have a disagreement?
Yes.
Wait, you didn't let me finish. So Dave Rubin, now he's a laughingstock. Then Jimmy Dore comes in
because Dave Rubin is a right winger. Majority Report is not.
So you're saying
you are in agreement with the Majority Report.
No. Hold on. Let me finish the thought. So on Jimmy Dore, he comes in. He goes, "Oh, they're paid by Nancy Pelosi. They're paid by the CIA." Lunatic, right? And so we let it fester. Finally, we're like, "Get this out of here," and we tell the people truth and we crush him. Now he's a joke on the internet, right? So we go on, and anytime we don't fight, it festers. Anytime we do fight, we crush them and we move the on, and nobody thinks Jimmy Dore's the left anymore. Nobody thinks Dave Rubin's the left anymore. And so now,
and soon nobody will think TYT is the left anymore.
Oh, these guys come and attack us going, "Yeah, we're the real left, we're the real left."
There's a difference.
And you're saying, no, don't crush them. Just let them fester and people pretend that they're the real left. No, we don't do that. If you're going to say stupid shit and you're going to try to punch us in the face, we're going to punch you back, not on our behalf, on behalf of Democratic voters who you are lying about. The Democratic voters do not agree with you. They agree with us. So sad day for you, and I'm not going to let you lie and pretend that Democratic voters are on your side.
Okay.
Cenk has literally been lying, saying that it's because Harris went too hard, too progressive with trans issues that they lost the fucking election. Cenk is lying about that. And again, it doesn't matter where the majority of the perception of what people think when it comes to trans women in women's sports and in women's places. Okay, we do not support principled values based on popularity. We believe in equal treatment in human rights, and that, you know, a trans woman is a woman, and so therefore she should get all the same access to places, to life, to live their life as a cis woman has. That's what that is. But now, oh no, because since the majority of the population doesn't agree with that 100%, therefore we shouldn't be advocating for it, and we're causing the problems, and we're being too loud about it, and we're doing it all wrong. No, it is our responsibilities as, you know, education, infotainment influencers out there, to help change minds, to help get the talking points out there, to help let people, you know, again, have a place that they can go where they can feel safe, where they can actually feel accepted and understood. That's what we should be doing, but TYT has been excluding a large part of their audience. Like, they are losing their queer audience like nobody's business, because they can't stand watching them anymore because it's constant attacks. He is literally blaming trans people for Harris losing the election, even though she didn't acknowledge them at all during this.
Okay. You're a liar, and they're not on your side. Do you agree that the Democratic voters are on my side?
I don't care what the Democratic voters are on, of whichever side they're on right now. We've lost the plot, okay?
No,
we've completely lost the plot, because now the conversation is about like you know, the serfs or Majority Report, and I think that's a completely and utterly unproductive conversation to have.
Your strategy is, when grifters on the left attack you, whether it's
Rubin,
think they're grifters. I think Cedar's a grifter. When
I
excuse me, what?
I disagree.
Okay, whether it's
think they're grifters.
I think Cedar's a grifter. When
you calling Sam Cedar a grifter? Do you know what the word grifter means? I'll get into a point about this. I just can't remember if there was a little bit more to this before I show how much of a grifter Sam Cedar is.
I disagree.
Okay. Oh, by the way, so now all of a sudden you're defending Cedar. When he calls me a grifter, you don't defend.
I don't. First of all, I've never heard him call you a grifter.
He's called me every name in the book.
Okay.
He's a low rent grifter.
Stop.
Okay. No. I'll tell you. I'll out him right now.
So again, with the names, with the lies, I don't recall Sam saying directly that Cenk is a grifter. And I watch every episode of the Majority Report. Nothing comes to mind. And here's Cenk just launching these attacks on Sam. calling Sam names while accusing Sam of calling Cenk every name under the book. And the thing is that Sam and Emma are generally speaking reluctant to talk about this shit because Emma in particular used to be part of the network. She had friends there. She still has some friends there. But to call Sam Seder a grifter when Cenk is now shooting his videos, his live streams out of the Polymarket studio. Okay, he's being sponsored by the Polymarket. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is an online gambling forum to make money off of predicting like who will be the next minister of finance and all that sort of bullshit. It is actually banned in the United States. You can't do this online gambling through Polymarket in the United States. And yet TYT is being funded by them right now. And so now all of a sudden, Polymarket, great. I'm sorry, who's the fucking grifter here? Where's that book that you kept on saying that you were going to sell and you had people buy copies of and whatnot? Again, what was that whole presidential run where you were making money off of your audience to run for president when you knew you had no chance of winning? Like not even close to remote. In fact, it wasn't even that you knew you didn't have a chance. You weren't qualified to run. And you were asking your audience for money. Every time I've watched a clip recently, which is very rare, to be honest, halfway through, a third of the way through, you're inserting ads for people to become members, to pay money, to give more money to TYT, and you insert it now in all of your clipped videos when he does one of his little live streams because of an important thing that comes up. All throughout it, he's like, give us money, become a member, all of that sort of stuff. And you're calling Sam Seder a grifter. I'm a member of the Majority Report. I used to be a paid member, but I can't afford to be a member anymore because I'm broke. I'm still a member and get all the perks members get. Why? Because Sam and Emma regularly on their show say, if you want to become a member, but you can't afford it right now, let us know and we'll make sure that you're given access. Because getting that information out there is more important. They regularly say if you don't have the money, if you're tight on cash, do not become members. It's all about look after yourselves first. It's only if you have the extra money lying around to then become a member. And they do need it, I don't think Majority Report is hurting that much. But they probably do need more members, but they are a much smaller operation than TYT. But they're never always in your face about it. There's at the end of some video clips from the Majority Report, Sam saying, hey, become a member, but it's done in kind of like a playful little way. Whereas all the clips from TYT, it's almost demanding. It's not playful. It is, you need to become a member. You need to support us, to help us, to do this, to do that. But to show you again just how much of a grifter Sam is, this is from the Majority Report live show on the 27th. So this was the day before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, also Sam's birthday. What a lovely birthday treat for Sam. And this is on their live show. Just the day before, Cenk is out there calling Sam Seder a dirty grifter.
Charlie Tuna says for $500, Majority Report listeners can purchase a Matt Gaetz cameo happy birthday message for Sam.
Well, let's not give that idiot money, please.
Yeah, come on.
No.
Because it might be going, allegedly, to some sex acts with underage people.
Or even it might be going to sustain Matt Gaetz, and that's also bad.
He has plenty of money. He doesn't need money. I would rather just actually, you want to spend $500 for my birthday, donate it to the family that we've had on for GoFundMe. We can put that on in Gaza and the bakery that they've been working on. We'll put a link in there. So if you want to spend some money, for my birthday, that would be a great way of doing it.
What a fucking grifter. Oh my God. Holy, can you grift any harder? Damn it. Could you be more selfless? Like, oh my God, how much of a fucking grifter are you, Sam? Telling people, to not give you money on your birthday and instead donate it to a good cause. How dare you? You dirty grifter. And this is, again, I think part of the reason why Cenk is so put off by Sam is that Sam really shows Cenk what integrity looks like, and it probably hurts a little. And so even though they're around the same age, somehow Sam is still doing it and Cenk isn't. Sam is reflecting back to Cenk all of his insecurities and just kind of amplifying them. And I think that's part of the reason why Cenk is so upset with Sam, because here's somebody around his age doing everything Cenk used to claim he was. Calling Sam Seder a grifter. That's fucking low. Because how exactly is he grifting? Where Cenk, again, is constantly asking for money, constantly accepting these big donations or, investments from groups. Even when it comes to the sponsors of the show, the Majority Report has turned down some because they don't agree with them. Principally, one of their longest running sponsors is their coffee, who is fair traded, ethically sourced, co-op owned coffee. They're not being sponsored by the poly market. TYT is. Who's the fucking grifter? Yet, Sam, again, as far as I know, has never called him a grifter.
When we were in Vegas together, when we were in the same network, he starts attacking Jimmy Dore. And I say, hey, cut this shit out. I agree with you, not Jimmy, but you're attacking him in a way that is over the top and totally unnecessary and counterproductive. And you know what Sam said to me? Sam said, oh, well, he has a bigger audience than me. So if I do that, I'm going to siphon off of his audience. You know why I siphon off? Oh, because I am right and he is wrong. And the audience deserves to hear my truth. So he's doing the same thing to us.
Agree.
No. Sam has talked plenty of times about trying to get into the algorithms of these right-wing grifters, of going onto their shows and stuff so he can gain access to their audience. That is normal content creator stuff. Me covering TYT right now, yeah, this video will probably get better numbers than, my video about Doug Ford spending $100 million on Starlink. That's normal. But the reason why Sam also does it is because he's trying to plant seeds. He's trying to access the audience, not to siphon them off, because let's face it, that's not going to happen. He's doing it to plant seeds, to change their mind, to get them to start questioning, what's going on. And then if they start questioning it and start checking out the Majority Report even more, that's a bonus. That's the bonus. That's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to get them to question who this right-wing commentator, what he's saying, is that right? How valid is it? Or, oh, that's an interesting perspective I haven't heard before. And then, like I said, and then if they start going over the Majority Report, it's a bonus. But it's also perfectly normal, common, tactics when you're a content creator to reference other shows, to want to be on other shows, to help with the algorithms. You have to play them to some extent. I suck at it, which is why, I have trouble growing my channel. I'm not that good at playing that game. But yeah, I want to get onto the larger shows, I'd love to be on the Leftist Mafia, to appear on the Vanguard and all this sort of stuff. Why? Because it would help my show. It's not so then I would siphon off their audience, but then we could share more of their audience, because there's a lot of crossover with my sandbox to the chats of all these other shows. And I'm not trying to steal them away. I would just like to have them come play in my sandbox too, as well. Not, not take them away from other leftist shows. I want all leftist shows to thrive and succeed. And the more, the better. We need more leftist content creators. We need more lefties supporting each other. And something that TYT and Cenk in particular is very piss poor at doing is supporting other lefty content creators, because Cenk over and over will say TYT is the only place to go for leftist media. It's the only one telling the truth. Where I have yet to hear any of these other lefties, the Power Report, the Serves, Rational National, Humanist Report, me, Matt Binder, I have yet to hear any of us be like, oh, we're the only place that you can go to get the information you need. I regularly hear the Majority Report, people call in and send in IMs and stuff to plug their channels. And they've had, they are more than happy to plug other people's channels when they call in. Even channels that are on the right wing, they're more than happy to say, yeah, plug your stuff. I regularly forget when I call in, and I think they forget too, because a lot of the audience knows Sandy from Ontario is left of the box. But still, I need to remember to plug it. And you know what? Sam would be completely fine with me plugging it every time I call in or send in an IM. However, when I worked for TYT's Rebel HQ, I was not allowed to shout out my YouTube channel. It wasn't until the last week I was there, the last few videos I made, that I was finally able to say, you can find me on YouTube at Left of the Box. So, again, how much this whole cross algorithm thing, this whole sharing audience thing, yeah, Sam does want to get into the algorithms of these right-wingers to help people learn and become, less of a right-winger, to educate them, to bring them over, to help them to see the light. It's not about numbers to Sam. It's not about playing the algorithm to gain more audience for Sam. But you can tell a lot of the content in TYT is geared towards specifically the clicks, just the algorithms. It's not about messaging. It's about getting as many views as possible. Where, yeah, sure, Sam and Emma, they would love to have more views on their videos, but they don't tailor make their videos for views specifically. They talk about the issues that are important to them. And that's why maybe their channel hasn't exploded the same way as TYT has. Who knows? But they also haven't been backed by millionaires.
But you agree with him.
And I told him not to do it.
But you agree with him that Jimmy Dore is
No, this was pre-Jimmy going full right-wing, full lunatic.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
on that particular issue they were debating about, I agreed with Sam and not Jimmy. I don't mind him saying, hey, I don't agree with Jimmy. What I minded is him saying, oh, Jimmy is terrible and bad intent and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but brother, he hadn't even done that yet.
He disagrees.
I don't think Sam ever said he's terrible and had bad intent back then anyway. All this does is show Sam had an idea of who Jimmy Dore was well before Cenk did. That's all this is Sam kind of had a feeling about what Jimmy Dore was all about way back then. And even I remember their debate about the whole Moon in the Lake, Michigan thing about the Supreme Court justices or judges and stuff. And I don't even recall Sam back then saying that Jimmy is a terrible person or anything. But Sam knew Jimmy was wrong on these issues and was calling him out on these issues. And I think on some level, he also knew Jimmy was about to go down this right-wing grift. And part of the reason why I've heard Sam be a little bit more reluctant to call out TYT is he wants to make sure that it is an actual turn before he starts chiming in. because I've heard him say that he's not against talking about it, but I think he wants to see if it's a pattern and not just a couple one-off instances with a lot of their rhetoric. And when it becomes a pattern, an undeniable pattern, that's when you'll probably see Sam get a little bit more aggressive towards covering TYT's talking points.
Agrees with Jimmy Dore on this whichever issue.
Did it with
what
bad
was it
intent,
on?
Haas.
What was it on?
He says, I don't even remember. It's irrelevant. What he says.
Yeah, it was all about bad intent. What do you say? I don't even know.
Is he literally told me I try to take other people's audience by getting into their basically next to their algorithm, right? So if you've got a guy like that who has bad intent, you're saying if you deem him right wing, you should attack him. But if you deem him left wing, you should let him lie about you. Should let him call you every name in the book.
No.
You should let him pretend he represents the left when he doesn't represent the left. He doesn't
call you every name in the book. And what has Cenk been doing this entire time to the left?
represent
Listen to me,
Democrats.
please.
You should let him trick people into thinking that the Democrats are super unpopular, that the left wing is super unpopular. No, I'm not going to let him trick people into thinking that.
Okay, listen.
The Democrats are super unpopular.
Seder or any number of different left-wing content creators have no bearing on the actual policies that the Republican right are implementing. No, they don't. They don't.
Why did Kamala
You're
Harris
out of your mind.
Why did Kamala Harris in 2019 say on tape that transgender detainees should get surgery if they're undocumented immigrants? She said it because there was hold on, Haas, let me finish. Because there was enormous pressure. There was enormous pressure from the radical left to say, "Oh yeah, you got to be pro-transgender detainee immigrant surgery. You have to, otherwise you're not left enough." And she's an idiot. She doesn't have any thoughts in her head. She was like, "Oh, okay, I'll adopt that."
So much just right there. It's like, so why did Kamala Harris, like 5 years ago, say this one thing when, if you put it in context, she was referring to surgeries, trans surgery, gender-affirming care surgery for prisoners, which was also a Trump policy, because again, if people are being imprisoned, it's up to the state to look after their healthcare needs. So that was also a Trump policy as well as a Kamala Harris policy. But then here he is insulting Harris, calling her an idiot with no thought in her head, insulting her, and again, just somehow going back to this thing that happened 5 years ago, which wasn't an extreme leftist policy, but somehow, because we were so vicious back then, that we forced her to, off the hand, whatever, one time, say trans people in prisons should be able to get surgery. That because of that happening 5 years ago, it cost Harris the election this month. What the fuck is wrong with you, Cenk? And then you insult her intelligence and call her an idiot with no thought in her head. But then you're afraid of being called names by the left.
That position. And it was because of the extreme left that she adopted that position. Because she's an empty vessel.
You are literally attributing the consistent thing that you also agree that Kamala Harris is a bad politician with bad instincts and did not have a good way to communicate what she would have done differently for trans people, okay, to Majority Report and any number of different like extreme leftist outlets that literally get a fraction of the views that I get in this regard. Like, no disrespect to them, but like all of us combined do not have the same motion. You're talking about the special interest groups.
You never fight them, so nobody knows. Everybody thinks you're extreme left. Everybody thinks that you're the woke left extraordinaire. Right. So like, and why do they think that? Apparently you don't agree, but they think that because you don't actually ever fight on this issue. You don't delineate.
The reality is the way that people are presented by others ends up changing the perception that they have in the minds of a lot of people that are they're simply just not paying attention. I come at it from a much more understanding point of view, and I understand that there is a large tent of people with a diversity of different opinions. And there are moments where I will yell at a chatter, but outside of that, in terms of like in terms of the finite amount of time we have spending, I find it more productive to spend it focusing on the actual people who hold the levers of power rather than people who I'm aligned with almost entirely, whether it be yourself with some very major disagreements or even Sam Cedar and the like.
But
that's it.
Haas, you're making it sound like
Presenting
we
yourself,
just have a difference of agreement.
No, presenting yourself
no,
as
but we don't
an
have
intellectual.
Haas,
presenting yourself as the opposite of these people, okay, serves no purpose. It just only makes you.
You know, I kind of feel like, you know, to throw back to one of the stories I covered earlier today, I feel like this is Justin Trudeau talking to Trump about what a tariff is. Having to try to calmly explain, you know, how this works. Well, Trump is like, I'm just going to put money in it. And Justin Trudeau is just like, now this is, so you put money on that, and then it's going to make everyone's life worse. It feels like this is the same dynamic going on right here.
You look like you're the moderate voice in here, and they're the extreme voices and whatever.
That's true, though.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just make your argument and move on and focus on the things that do matter.
Say the same thing to them because they're the ones that's because look, intent matters, Haas. Intent matters. Look, you know how many people disagree with me in Young Turks hosts? So I had this giant same exact debate we were having about the trans ad with Jordan Yule and with Jules Sulzdev. This is the one time I get it wrong, Jules. I love those guys. Francesca's in our network. I disagree with them all the time. We have the debates on air. There's nothing wrong with those debates. That's wonderful. No problem at all. Where I draw the line is bad intent.
Yeah, when I have disagreements with
So where are all the trans and queer contributors to TYT? Where'd they all go? Are there any even there anymore? Funny how that worked. So let's just skip up to... This is like a throwaway sentence that I just kind of found interesting. I think it's here.
Vilify them and make them silly or make them feel silly or even turn around. I mean, there's a lot of academic literature on this, Cenk, by very...
I know. I don't give a shit. I read the academic literature and it's dumb.
Okay.
You can't academic your way out of... I let all the rapists go. Oh,
Dude,
but it's okay. I'm a professor.
No,
I wrote 13 books about it.
That's not...
Just out there acknowledging that you don't read, that you don't listen to, pay attention to academic literature on things. Yeah, that's the alpha leftist move there. Just acknowledging that you don't bother to look into the things that you're covering, the subjects that you're covering. Good to know. Good to know. And yeah, it checks out. Your commentary, that's in line with your commentary, 100%. And then the last teeny tiny bit that I wanted to get to on this before a tweet or two.
Doing that. They do it to me all the time. It doesn't matter.
All right. Okay. What matters is... who has good intent and who has bad intent.
No, what matters is the way you deal with it. That's what matters. If you highlight it, if you focus on it, if you constantly harp on it, then more and more people are going to... More and more people are going to yell at you over it. That's it.
Okay, I don't mind. A
lot of people
and then I'm going to yell at them and then they're going to cry.
No,
so that's the
a lot of people are lost. A lot of people are...
Who's crying, Cenk? When you're sitting there like, you're going me, I'm sitting in dirty derping. Who's crying? Who's crying?
Alienated. They're looking for a sense of community and a sense of purpose. So when you become the guy that they're going to yell at that is responsive to it, and I know this from my own personal career, I've done this mistake, I've made this mistake time and time again, and I still sometimes contribute to it.
I'm not doing it to randos. I'm doing it to the host who have bad intent, say, oh yeah, they're not pure, they're doing it for money. We're brothers and sisters. Hey, by the way, all the guys who said we're going to turn...
Yeah, he has absolutely done this to randos and attacked randos on Twitter all the fucking time.
MAGA. And we're going to take money. Where the fuck is it?
I mean,
where's the money? Where's MAGA? Where is it? What
happened? I think the appropriate thing
so you were full of shit.
I think the appropriate thing for example, Sam to do in the future, other than like having a direct conversation with you guys, whether on camera or off camera, would be not to even respond to the fact that you called him a grifter. You know what I mean? In this conversation.
And no, here's what he'll do instead. And now that we're saying it, it changes tactic. But if we hadn't said anything,
I love how he just set that up right there, where it's like, oh, this is what Sam will say. And then there's that moment of doubt of maybe he won't. So, well, maybe he's going to now change what he would have said because we're saying this. And Sam is apparently obsessed with listening to everything Cenk says. So Sam is intently watching this on his birthday on Thanksgiving.
He would have said, I can't believe Cenk said this about me. Cenk is such a bad guy. Cenk is a right-winger. Cenk is a right-winger. He's doing it for money. Cenk's a right-winger. I'm pure. I'm the purest guy on the left. Oh my God, we have to agree with every single extreme position because they're not extreme. They're the most, America agrees with what only 2% of the country actually agrees with. Cenk is a bad guy. Cenk's a grifter. Cenk's a Nazi. Okay, all right.
I don't think that they demonstrated an unpopular idea. And
okay, what the fuck was that again? No, Sam would not act like that at all. Because Sam is, there's a word, and it's not just about the physical, but it's also about the mental. It's called mature. You know, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't act like that. He doesn't call people grifters. He doesn't throw that out there randomly. Like, he does call some people grifters, but it's well earned. But then what the fuck was this?
With what only 2% of the country actually agrees with. Cenk is a bad guy. Cenk's a grifter. Cenk's a Nazi. Okay, all right.
I don't think that they're
sitting there waving around your middle fingers.
I don't think that they demonstrated unpopular.
I'm not saying Sam would never do this, but like I said, I watch pretty much every episode of the Majority Report. I don't recall Sam just going there like, look, oh no, I disagree with you. Cenk is so threatened by Sam. It's pathetic. And meanwhile, for the most part, I seriously doubt Sam cares about Cenk. And he has said as much that, you know, neither like nor dislike, doesn't really have a relationship with him. He's maybe talked to him a few times. Sam is not spending his Thanksgiving and birthday thinking, you know, that Cenk guy is such a horrible person, you know, just such a grifter and a horrible person. And, you know, I can't even enjoy my turkey right now because all I can think about is how much Cenk is like this massive alpha male that I'll never be able to compare to and all this sort of stuff. I don't think Sam is worried about that right now. And even if it wasn't for all the other shit going on in Sam's life right now, I still don't think he'd be, you know, occupying any of his mental free time thinking about what Cenk is up to, what he's saying, how he's presenting, whether or not he's a grifter. And I don't think Sam is going to go on and cry, you know, on Monday, get onto the Majority Report and cry about how badly called out he was by Cenk. He's not going to do that in the Majority Report. Now, what Hasan is saying is that the best thing Sam could do is not respond to it. I'm fairly certain Sam is going to respond to it. It wouldn't surprise me if he says something, but nothing like what Cenk is thinking. Sam can have a little bit of fun with these sorts of things, and to Sam, that's all it is a little bit of fun. But I think it's starting to reach the point now where if the Majority Report crew does talk about TYT, it's going to be more in the manner of how they would talk about Dave Rubin or Jimmy Dore or Stephen Crowder. I think it's starting to enter that territory now. And it won't be the crew of the Majority Report crying.
Popular idea, and neither do I. And like, if my position was so unsustainable and so unpopular, I don't think I'd be the largest content creator on the North American, you know, continent for leftist positions. Like, like there is definitely a lot of people who understand where I'm coming from.
All right, I'm not going to get into a network size here.
What?
All right, last thing. What do you want me to call you guys?
I don't know. You can do whatever. You can say whatever you want.
Identitarian left is so clunky.
What?
Extreme left seems like an insult. How about max left? I don't know. You tell me. What do you want to? Because we disagree on these things, right? So I gotta have.
You can be on the left and disagree with things, and we don't need our own name to separate us from Cenk because we're on the left. Cenk is on the left with some issues. he doesn't spend most of his time there anymore. But on a lot of key, very important issues, Cenk is not on the left. Which is why any sort of claim that he might have to being a progressive, no. And so just wanted to bring up this tweet. So this was tweeted out the same day. I don't know if it was before or after Thanksgiving, but I just found it kind of ironic. I don't know. A little, oh, what's the word? It's not hypocritical, but there's a word in there where it's like, I'm sorry, what? So Cenk tweeted this out. What the right doesn't know is that buried inside the left is the nicest, sweetest people you'll ever meet. Since people mainly see either the most extreme leftists or corporate Democrats, what they don't see is the well-meaning, kind, caring, and thoughtful left I see. The only way I could read this was as sarcastic coming from Cenk, considering everything he was just saying during that discussion with Hasan. Yeah, on the left, on the radical extreme left, are the nicest, most caring, compassionate people I have ever met. You know, the amount of support that I've gotten from this community that, you know, has been created through not just, you know, my sandbox, but through the chats of all the other places, the community that we've built, the Majority Report community, the serfs and, you know, Humus Report, the Power Report, all of that, the community that we've built is a damn fine community of wonderful people. And literally, when I was struggling and I was in need of help and support with my dear cat Frodo, all of you were there for me. I would not be able to do this channel, to do this work on as much of a regular basis as I can if it wasn't for the support of this wonderful community. And I just heard Cenk for 3 hours refer to them as dirtbags, idiots, losers, liars, horrible people. The people in my life, in our community, Cenk is referring to them like that. And then here he is, oh no, but there's like the well-meaning kind, you know, because people mainly see either the most extreme leftists, because apparently the most extreme leftists like me aren't kind and caring people. So the only way I was able to read this tweet from Cenk was as sarcastic. People on the right would be happy to see that I no longer exist in this world. People on the left, I think, would have concerns. It is really just gross, this turn from Cenk. Because like a lot of people, I admired what he used to be. You know, again, TYT inspired me to get involved with politics. I haven't read this part. The average Americans who want to make sure their fellow citizens are taken care of, no one gets attacked for who they are, and who usually worry about themselves last. There's a reason why Bernie's slogan was "Fight for someone you don't know," because that's the instinct we have. You don't know a lot of people who are trans. I'm just saying. It'd be nice if you actually fought for them as opposed against them. Just again, this whole rhetoric coming from him in these tweets is just so apathetical to what he was just saying for those 3 hours. And it's not just those 3 hours. Again, part of the reason why I can't even bother or get through a lot of their clips, even though it's like, oh, this might be an interesting story, is because he will randomly attack leftists in it and dismiss radical leftists, like the people in this community, like me, as being unreasonable and all that sort of stuff. You know, I don't see people on the radical left attacking other leftists for being who they are. We'll attack ideas. We'll call out people for having bigoted, phobic remarks. We'll do that. No one on the left that I know of who is like authentically on the left has attacked me for being non-binary, for, you know, being queer, for being disabled, for having mental health issues. I don't see people on the left. Like, there are times when maybe they'll say something that is ableist or whatnot. And if you mention it to them, they'll be like, oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, I get what you're saying. They'll listen. But nobody's attacking me for being autistic on the left that I know of. But I was just attacked by Cenk for almost 3 hours in that video. Specifically the area around trans issues. So that's a nonsense tweet from Laura Loomer. She also replied to Anna Kasparian as well over something Anna Kasparian said. Because here's the thing, Cenk. You're not a leopard. You're voting for the Lepers Eating Faces party. You're not a leopard. Your time will come. As much as you want to cozy up to MAGA, support Trump suddenly, say, oh, it's not so bad, as much as Anna want to say 2025, Project 2025, isn't that bad. All of that. Someday your face is going to be on the menu for those leopards. Just so sad to see the direction that they've gone. And it makes you, like, it can make people worried to have faith in anyone. Because when they came out, like, being so strong, progressives, the home of progressives, it makes people, I think, a little bit wary to have faith in others, especially content creators, because if TYT can turn this hard, then how can you tell anyone is being authentic? And so you might become more disengaged, you might become more unplugged, because it's hard to put your resources, your mental, your emotional, your financial resources into anyone and then see it get totally misused, destroyed, for the people to not be who you thought. Like, again, for me to put my financial resources into getting MR merch speaks volumes of what I think of them. But like I said at the beginning of all of this, that faith I have in the majority report is absolutely conditional. And it would be devastating if suddenly they turn face and accuse trans people as to the reason why Democrats lost the election. Although that's not something they're going to do, so I'm not terribly worried about it. But if you're not that plugged into any of these networks, how would you know? You know, you haven't watched the hours upon hours and hours of Majority Report as I have or something. So how would you know Sam is being authentic in his videos and his reports and stuff? How would you know Dan from the web is? How would you know Lance is? How would you know I am? That maybe I'm just talking about TYT to grift and get more of their viewers and siphon off their audience and get, you know, my channel up to astronomically high levels and I can live rich off of that. And it's hard to build a movement when you have that level of suspicion among people. When you have people afraid or timid to put their faith in others, it's really hard to build a movement. And so what Cenk at TYT is doing is devastating on so many levels to completely disrupt the movement, to make it harder for people to connect, to you know, fragment off the left into these different groups. So, you know, people who are queer, they're losing that audience over there. Really fast, they're losing that audience. You know, you just look at everyone who has left the network, everyone with principles. You know, there are still some people there, but, you know, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with contracts, the fact that they just had kids, they need their health care. In the States, unfortunately, people are tied to jobs through healthcare a lot more. But you look, I don't think they have any queer contributors anymore. Look at the mods leaving. All the mods who have left because they had principled stance and they saw where TYT was going and they didn't agree. And instead of addressing those concerns, TYT was, oh, don't let the doors hit you on the ass on the way out type thing. And from what I've heard in the sandbox is that the chats for TYT have become impossible to be in if you're queer and especially if you're trans. That there's a lot of garbage going around those chats. What TYT right now is doing is really fragmenting the leftist movement. and really dividing the left in a way that is so unnecessary. And a lot of it has to do with money and clicks and just this need to be relevant. He's, you know, being a detriment to the movement because he needs to be relevant. So disappointing. Howard Wilson, he calls anyone he doesn't like the extreme left so he can try to look better. Yeah, it is how he's so unaware of every accusation is, what's the phrase? Every accusation is a confession. And just the way that he says that the extreme left, the dirtbag left, will claim that they're the left, and all this sort of stuff. But he's like, no, they don't agree with me. Me, Cenk, they don't agree with me 100%, and I'm the real left. So he's doing exactly what he is accusing the extreme left of doing in the same fucking sentence. Jokey, oh, LOL, I remember the TYT reporter drive. Yeah. Mindy Doctors, Cenk is just talking bollocks. I think we should ignore TYT. They're dead to me. I would like to, but like I said, they have a major impact on the political sphere, on people's actual lives. And it's important to push back on it and make sure that there's other people out there who might want to move away from TYT, to let them know that there are other places that they can go to get the unbiased reporting or perspective that they, unbiased leftist perspective, if that makes any sense, that they want, to let them know that they're supported on other networks, that there's other areas that are accepting of them. And by pushing back against TYT and, you know, putting it in the algorithms and stuff, it does get out there more to more people so that that message can get through. So as much as a headache that Cenk and TYT is becoming, it's still important to be public with your pushback against them, because you're not punching down, you're punching up with them. And it's important for viewers to know that if they're uncomfortable with what TYT is doing, they're not alone. That weird feeling they have that this doesn't seem quite right, you know, that feeling should be validated. And that gets validated when you have smaller content creators actually speaking, as TYT would say, truth to power. The wild less, all these men suddenly caring about women's sports. Yeah, that's the thing. If it wasn't for the way TYT brings it up, people on the left just aren't bringing it up the same way. The right brings it up, and sometimes people on the left will push back, but you know, you don't see people on the left like shoving it in people's faces all the time. Piers Aura, what does this have to do with China? Yeah, I don't know what Cenk was crying about. Like, I think he was saying that people on the left believe that people in China should be able to have gender-affirming care, and that we're crying about it. I don't actually know what it's like over in China when it comes to getting that sort of thing. You know, how prevalent it is or not. But I think, yeah, globally, if people want any sort of surgery, they should be able to get it. I believe in universal health care, not just for Canada, not just for the United States, but for the world. I'm such a radical leftist. I believe trans people have the right to live as who they are all around the world. I'm so radical. That queer folks should be able to exist as who they are all around the world. And for people who, I do plan on clipping this, although it will be a very long video clip. And if you're watching this for the first time because of the clickbait of the subject, please subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate it. You know, I'd like to siphon off some of that audience. and, you know, come to me for Canadian politics and news. And I cover that quite regularly. And I'll shout out other channels who also cover this quite regularly, because it's important to know cross-border solidarity if you're American. to know we're all dealing with the same issues on either side of the border. And I also talk about other issues like mental health and living with disabilities and other social issues that might come up. So I'm well worth your time. So please subscribe, like, do all that sort of stuff. Become a patron. All that. Shemagli Cenk is getting super frustrated that his attempts to bait Hasan aren't working anymore. Like, how do you even respond to somebody in his late 50s acting like that? What, somebody in kindergarten, I think, would do that sort of thing? Crystal Safira, Cenk looks and sounds like Donald Trump. I think a lot of people have also made the comparison saying that if there was a left-wing Alex Jones, Cenk would be it. And yeah. Bad lefty, of all the people to call grifters, Sam fucking Seder? Bruh. No. The thing I admire about him the most is his integrity, and it's been there for decades. Like, I'll even admit, Sam has had to do less growing a movement on issues than I have over my life. Because I grew up in a very conservative household, and it took me a while to move on some of my positions, but really all it took is exposure to other people. And as I got older, the easier it became to understand and empathize and stuff. But I think a lot of the points where we agree on now, Sam was there in his, like, a 20-year-old Sam was far more progressive than a 20-year-old me was, type thing. And a 25-year-old Sam was more progressive than a 25-year-old me was. But I think now there's might even be a little bit of surpassing where I'm probably further left than Sam on some issues, which is just interesting. But the older I've gotten, the more progressive I've gotten. Shemagli, Sam can't afford to fix the AC in his studio properly. Claim like a bomb. Lance has called Cenk a grifter. Can't remember Sam doing it. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Lance has by now. But the thing is that with people who, I guess the phrase I'm using now is the authentic left, by the time they start calling TYT, Anna, and Cenk grifters, it's because they've earned it. You know, it's because they're showing a pattern that's making it harder for us to not refer to them as grifters. I'm still not full-fledged calling them grifters. I think there's still a lot of psychological things going on. And to me, to be a grifter, money is the predominant thing. You know, money is the predominant driver behind grifting. Like, to me, that's what it means. Like, to other people, grifter might mean another thing, and so might fit the bill. But for me, it's like primarily money. So you're grifting, you're doing whatever it takes for more money. But I think there's still psychological drivers with both Cenk and Anna, and that it's not 100% for the money. The money, though, definitely a good incentive. So it's not like it doesn't play a factor. It absolutely does play a factor. So I don't know if myself would, even though I might have offhandedly already referred to them as a grifter out of frustration. But like, if I'm just calmly sitting here and thinking about it, I don't know if they fit my definition of what a grifter is yet. But they're definitely, you know, making it more difficult to not call them that. Bad lefty, the long grift. Yeah, like that's the other thing that could be going on is, what was it? You know, Cenk is maybe thinking, you know what? Sam is doing this reverse psychology thing by, you know, going on there and telling people to not give him money, that's then going to make them give him money. Like maybe that's why Sam is like, oh, no, whatever you do, don't give me money for my birthday. No, donate it to a good cause. Because, you know, then Sam knows that people will look at him and be like, oh, he's like a real authentic man. Therefore, I'm definitely going to not listen to him and give him all my money. Like, I think there might be a bit of that going on in Cenk's brain too, thinking that Sam is somehow playing this part of not being a grifter in order to grift. You know, the whole grifting by not grifting or not grifting by grifting something or other, you know, that by pretending to not be a grifter, that is how he grifts. I think that might actually be going on in Cenk's head as well about Sam. that, oh yeah, Sam is just putting on the show of being this authentic good guy, of not wanting money. It's like, oh no, whatever you do, don't become a member. Like, whatever you do right now, people, don't send lots of money into super chats. Whatever you do, don't do that. It's like, I do fall into the same category of Majority Report where I'll say, it's like, yes, by all means, send in the super chats, become a patron, help out with donations for Frodo's vet bills, the Amazon wish list I have linked in the description box below, but only if you can. Like, don't spend money on me if you need it. Like, I just, look after yourself first. And then if you have a little extra, yes, I appreciate it. And it helps to keep me going and it helps to sustain what I do. So if you want to help out that way, by all means, but there are ways that you can help without financial contributions, and sometimes they're niche, and sometimes it's as much as, getting into the chats of other leftists and letting them know about me and trying to get me onto their shows, because that would help a lot too, and it doesn't cost people anything. Because I live with poverty, and as much as I would love to be able to support some of these content creators I see, I understand the struggle of not being able to. And so I don't want people spending money they don't have on me. That's the government's responsibility. They're the ones that should be, paying me enough to actually not be in dire poverty, relying on disability. So, I don't want this community to pick up the slack of what my government should be doing. But that said, if you have the extra money, it helps. Every little bit helps. Howard Wilson, speaking of intentions, Anna always goes on about how she was right about how much she hated Tulsi. This is the same thing. Yeah, all of this, like, oh, what about their intentions? Their intentions. And it's like, I've never seen Sam's intentions or Emma's intentions or Matt, like behind the camera Matt, because he chimes in a fair bit as well. I've never seen their intentions bad. Again, it's integrity. Like, all of the crew of the Majority Report, the people who regularly go on Thursdays, I never see bad intent with them, and I see integrity. And again, I'm not afraid to call it out if I see them break that integrity. If it's conditional. And I do worry about whether or not they'll have Judy Gold back on the show at some point. That would be a mark against them. Like, I don't know if they know. And I understand that if they just get IM'd about it or a phone call about it, saying you shouldn't have Judy Gold on again, I could see them getting just defensive out of instinct because they might not know, because they might not be so plugged into her life. And for those of you who don't know, I've covered it on my channel. You can go back and see the clips. Judy Gold was a regular Friday guest on the Majority Report and good friends with Sam. She's a raging Zionist. She went on a comedy tour for the Friends of the IDF. So she went on a comedy tour to help raise money for IDF soldiers. And she actually posted on her Instagram account her mocking the pro-Palestinian protesters outside her Toronto show. So if she ever goes back onto the Majority Report and she is not confronted about this, I would have issues and I would call it out. That said, like I said, I don't know if Sam and Emma actually know that. So if people just say, well, what about Judy Gold? And they get defensive off the bat, I can understand that. And unlike what Cenk says, I think people on the left cut each other a lot of slack when it comes to issues like this. If they don't know, they don't know. But once they do know, if they have her back on the show, then I'd have issue with that. And also asking, is it true that Anna and Cenk drive luxury sports cars? I wouldn't know, but I think if Cenk doesn't, he really needs to buy that convertible for his midlife crisis and maybe give up on this. So again, only if you have the money, please become a patron. Really helps. I have different tiers. even if it's only temporary, you know, you can afford it for a few months and then not. You don't have to explain ever, you know, stop being a patron, you know. I get it. I get it. Also, if you do have a little extra cash, ongoing support for Frodo's vet bills would be appreciated. He is doing well, which is amazing considering how old that cat is now. And he's not just doing okay, he's doing well. And a year ago, I thought he was going to die. And so seeing him alive and playing with his brothers, still being able to jump up on furniture, being himself, and he's like 17 years old, is quite the thing. But he still needs regular medication and stuff. So any support with his vet bills would be appreciated. And you can do that by the PayPal link in the description box below. Or if you're Canadian, e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com. And that money specifically is to help cover his ongoing vet bills. I have an Amazon wish list in the description box below, and I'm adding things as I go along. As I get settled and things of that sort. So stuff to help, you know, my YouTube studio, my art studio, treats for my cats, treats for me. If you just want to do a one-time thing, that's, again, super appreciated. Every little bit helps, and I do mean it because I understand it. And it might just seem like a little bit to you, but it means the world to me. But only if you can afford it. You know, I don't want people spending money on me if you need it. But like, subscribe, plug me to other leftist content creators to help me get onto their shows. I would love to get onto the Majority Report sometime. Like actually on the show and not just a call-in. To talk about, you know, the upcoming Canadian election. Like any American leftist shows you know of, I desperately want to get on to talk about the upcoming Canadian election. I'll even talk to other Canadians about the upcoming Canadian election. I'm not against that. But I desperately want to get more of a message out there. And it is like very much wanting to get onto the Majority Report because I know they have a large Canadian audience. And so I want to siphon off their Canadian audience. I want access to that. But it is more, I want to share their audience and inform their Canadian audience of what's about to happen. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.